Your future is shaped not by chance, but by the decisions you commit to today. It's easy to look at someone successful and assume luck played the bigger role, but more often than not, luck only shows up after thousands of deliberate choices pave the way. A meaningful life is rarely the product of random events. It is the harvest of disciplined decisions made long before the reward appears. Every step you take, every habit you adopt, every opportunity you say yes or no to, these are the quiet architects of your tomorrow. The truth is, most people don't ruin their future in one day. And they don't build it in one day either. It happens gradually. Decisions are like seeds. Some people never plant because they keep waiting for the perfect season. Others plant weak seeds, undisciplined mornings, careless spending, inconsistent effort, and then feel surprised when the harvest is thin. A better decade begins with better planning. It begins when you say, from today forward, I will decide differently. But here's the part many forget: a decision only has power when backed by commitment. Anyone can decide to change, but the ones who stick to that decision during inconvenience, discomfort, and doubt are the ones who see transformation. The commitment gives weight to the decision. Without a decision is nothing more than a wish dressed in confident language. With commitment, it becomes the force that shapes your character, your direction, and ultimately your destiny. Think about your daily choices, what you read, how you speak to yourself, how you react to challenges, how you treat your body, how you use your time. These decisions may feel small, almost invisible, but compounded over months and years, they construct a completely different version of you. 10 minutes of learning each day becomes knowledge. 10 minutes of exercise becomes energy. 10 minutes of reflection becomes clarity. You don't need dramatic changes. You need deliberate decisions repeated consistently. Life will always present circumstances outside your control, but your decisions will determine how you respond. Two people can face the same hardship. One grows, one collapses. The difference isn't the hardship. It's the decision they made beforehand about who they would be when challenges arrive. When you decide to be disciplined, obstacles become training. When you decide to be responsible, setbacks become lessons. When you decide to be committed, distractions lose their power. If you want to know your future, look at your decisions today. Not your dreams, not your intentions, not your emotions. Your decisions. Your decisions about money, your decisions about relationships, your decisions about discipline, your decisions about growth. Your future is the reflection of these choices, not the reflection of hope. Hope is valuable, but hope without decisions is like a map without movement. So ask yourself, what decisions are you making right now that your future self will thank you for? And what decisions are you avoiding that your future self will pay the price for? Because one way or another, you are shaping your decade, either by purposeful choice or by careless drift. A powerful life begins with a simple truth you choose. You choose your habits. You choose your mindset. You choose your friends. You choose your standards. And when you choose wisely, when you choose intentionally, you stop living by chance and start living by design. Make the kind of decisions today that build the kind of future you want to live in tomorrow. Your decade is waiting for direction. Give it one. A real decision shuts the door on excuses and opens the door to discipline. It's the moment when maybe becomes must, when I'll try becomes I will, and when the back door of escape finally gets locked. Most people don't struggle because they lack talent or intelligence. They struggle because they keep their options too open. They leave room for the old habits to sneak in, for comfort to dominate commitment, for excuses to return disguised as reasons. But the day you make a real decision, something changes deep inside you. You stop negotiating with your weaker self. You stop entertaining the stories that kept you average. You stop postponing the actions that could transform your life. A real decision isn't emotional enthusiasm. It isn't a moment of motivation that fades when pressure comes. It is a commitment blended with clarity about who you want to become and what must be done to get there. When that clarity arrives, excuses lose their power. You no longer say, "I didn't have time," because discipline teaches you to make time. You no longer say, "I didn't feel like it," because discipline reminds you that feelings are passengers, not drivers. You no longer say, "It's hard," because discipline whispers, "Of course it's hard. Anything worthwhile is." Real decisions are costly, but they pay extraordinary dividends. They demand sacrifice, consistency, and the willingness to confront your own patterns. But in return, they give you freedom, the freedom of self-respect, the freedom of progress, and the freedom of knowing you control your direction. Excuses feel good in the moment, but they steal your future. Discipline feels heavy at first, but it builds a life you can't wait to wake up to. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you strengthen the muscle of self-trust. You start believing in your ability to follow through, and that belief becomes the foundation for confidence, growth, and success. People often wait for discipline to magically appear before making a decision, but that's not how it works. Decision comes first, discipline follows. The moment you say, "This is who I am now," life begins to rearrange itself around that identity. You start seeking better environments, better habits, better influences. You stop tolerating the behaviors that kept you stuck. You rise a little earlier, work a little harder, think a little sharper. Discipline becomes a companion rather than a chore. It walks with you, guides you, and gradually transforms your level of thinking. And the beauty is this: once a real decision is made, momentum begins to form. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel natural. What once felt like sacrifice starts to feel like investment. What once felt like struggle starts to feel like strength. That's the magic of discipline. It multiplies everything it touches. It multiplies your results, your confidence, your opportunities, and your sense of purpose. Look back at any major achievement in your life, and you'll find a moment of decision behind it. A moment when you stopped accepting less from yourself. A moment when excuses no longer fit the person you wanted to become. If you trace that moment, you'll realize that it wasn't the achievement that defined your growth. It was the choice. So if you want a decade that elevates you, a decade you can look back on with pride and gratitude, make a real decision today. Close the door to the old story. Seal it shut. Then pick up the tools of discipline and walk forward. The road won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Once excuses lose their place in your life, your potential finally gets a chance to shine. Small daily decisions compound into a decade of either progress or regret. And this is one of the great laws of life that most people overlook. We tend to think life changes in dramatic moments, the big opportunity, the big breakthrough, the big idea. But the truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. Life changes when you consistently choose the small actions that move you forward, even when no one is watching. A decade is nothing more than 650 days placed side by side, and each day carries a decision that either lifts you or limits you. Think about it. One decision to read 10 pages a day becomes dozens of books by the end of 10 years. One decision to save a small amount consistently becomes financial security. One decision to walk for 20 minutes a day becomes better health, more energy, and a stronger mind. On the other hand, one decision to hit the snooze button becomes a habit of procrastination. One decision to escape into distractions becomes years of lost potential. One decision to ignore your goals becomes a lifestyle of settling. It's never the big choices that ruin or rebuild a life. It's the tiny ones accumulated quietly over time. Daily decisions are like seeds. They never look like much in the moment. A seed doesn't look like a tree, and a decision doesn't look like a result. But if you plant them consistently, water them consistently, and protect them consistently, they eventually grow into something far larger than their size. The tragedy is that many people underestimate the value of today because they overestimate what a single day should produce. They want immediate transformation, and when they don't get it, they stop. But the wise understand that daily choices don't pay off in hours. They pay off in years. Every day you're building something. You're either building your strength or building your excuses. You're building your potential or building your limitations. You're building habits that make your life easier or habits that make your life harder. And the compound effect doesn't care whether you choose wisely or poorly. It amplifies whatever you feed it. 10 years from now, you will either thank yourself for your daily disciplines or apologize to yourself for your daily neglect. Imagine two people with the same dream. One decides to give 15 minutes a day to that dream, and the other decides to wait for motivation, the perfect time, or some magical moment where everything feels right. After a decade, one has mastery, confidence, results, and momentum. The other has frustration, excuses, and a long list of reasons life didn't work out. They didn't end up in different places because of talent, luck, or circumstance. They ended up there because of daily decisions, tiny, almost invisible choices that quietly shape their destinies. When you truly understand the power of daily decisions, you stop looking for giant leaps and start focusing on steady steps. You stop wishing for overnight change and start committing to consistent effort. You stop gambling with your future and start crafting it. Because the difference between a decade of progress and a decade of regret is simply this one person honored their small decisions and the other ignored them. So choose wisely today. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you begin and that you begin today. If you give your best to the small things, the big things will eventually take care of themselves. And when you look back 10 years from now, you'll realize that your greatest achievements were built one small, disciplined decision at a time. Small daily decisions might seem insignificant when taken individually. Skipping a morning workout, choosing convenience over nutrition, scrolling your phone instead of reading, saying yes when you should say no. These all seem small, trivial, but in reality, these tiny choices are the building blocks of your decade. A decade doesn't get decided by the grand gestures or the dramatic moments. It is quietly determined by the little things you do consistently. Each day, each choice is like a drop of water carving a canyon over time. By themselves, they appear harmless, but over 10 years, they form the landscape of your life. Think about it. If you spend just 1 hour less than you should on personal growth every day, over a year, that's hundreds of hours lost. If you compromise on your standards once, it makes the next compromise easier. If you let fear dictate a small decision today, it trains your mind to let fear decide tomorrow as well. Progress isn't made in leaps and bounds. It is forged in the subtle, seemingly inconsequential actions you repeat day after day. Conversely, regret is born in the same way. If you neglect your health, your knowledge, your relationships, or your character in small, repeated ways, the result is not immediate, but a decade from now, it's undeniable. That's the silent power of daily decisions. The beauty of this principle is that the opposite is also true. Consistent small decisions in your favor. Decisions to invest in your knowledge, to exercise your body, to maintain integrity, to help others, to save wisely, compound into enormous rewards. Think of the person who reads just 10 pages a day. 10 pages seem like nothing, but over a year, that's thousands of pages of knowledge, and over a decade, that person has gained wisdom that most would envy. The person who commits to a daily habit of discipline, whether in work, in relationships, or in health, is shaping a future that others might call luck. But it is really the sum of their tiny, consistent choices. What makes this principle so important is that it gives you control. You cannot control every circumstance, every market shift, or every action of others. But you can control the small decisions that define your day. And the day defines the week defines the month defines the year, and the year defines the decade. In other words, mastery of your daily choices is mastery over your life's trajectory. The person who underestimates this misses one of the greatest truths of success. It is far easier to choose wisely each day than to fix a decade of poor decisions later. The next 10 years will not wait for you to feel ready. They will move forward indifferent to your hesitation. Your choice to act or procrastinate today will echo louder than any grand vision you have for the future. It is in these repeated daily decisions that destiny is quietly written. If you want a decade of achievement, fulfillment, and impact, you must respect the small choices as much as the big ones. Decide to invest in yourself, to act with integrity, to embrace growth, to care for your relationships, and to refuse what does not serve your long-term goals. Your future is not a mystery. It is the cumulative effect of what you choose each day. Remember, excellence is not a singular act, it is a habit. And habits are nothing more than repeated decisions. Let your small daily decisions be courageous, disciplined, and intentional. Let them compound positively so that a decade from now, you look back with pride instead of regret. Small daily decisions are the silent architects of your life. Make them wisely, and your decade will make itself remarkable. Life is full of choices, yet the most overlooked decisions are often the ones we refuse to make. Indecision is seductive because it feels safe, but in reality, it's expensive. Every time you postpone a decision, you are making a statement, whether you realize it or not. That statement says, I am willing to let life dictate my future rather than take control myself. And when life dictates, the results are rarely what you hoped for. The truth is, what you refuse to decide is still a decision, often the most costly one you will ever make. Think about it. Every successful person you admire made decisions when others hesitated. They decided to learn when others procrastinated, to act when others doubted, and to commit when others wavered. They understood that not deciding was not neutral. It was a choice to stay where they were. And for the person who refuses to decide, time becomes a thief, habits become chains, and opportunities pass like trains in the night. Indecision doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. Every decision you avoid has a price tag. It costs you momentum. It costs you confidence. It costs you relationships. It costs you financial stability. And it costs you peace of mind. Indecision breeds anxiety because you are living in uncertainty. You are leaving your life to chance rather than designing it with purpose. And the irony is, people often complain about their circumstances while clinging to indecision, not realizing they are the architects of their own stagnation. Decisions carry weight, but indecision carries consequences that are far heavier. When you refuse to choose, you miss out on the growth that comes from action. Growth is never neutral, it requires movement. And movement is born from choice. The longer you sit on the sidelines, the more life moves past you. Opportunities that could have been yours evaporate, and you are left wondering why your decade feels like it slipped through your fingers. It is important to understand that indecision doesn't just affect your goals. It affects your character. People who consistently refuse to make decisions begin to doubt themselves. They start believing that they cannot trust their own judgment. They rely on the opinions of others, or worse, on luck. And when the time comes to take decisive action, hesitation becomes a habit. They find themselves trapped in a cycle of what ifs and maybe someday. Meanwhile, the decisive person is already a step ahead, shaping life according to their vision. To break free from indecision, you must acknowledge that clarity is the first step to action. You must confront fear. uncertainty, and discomfort, because the cost of avoiding a decision is always higher than the cost of making one. Even if a decision is difficult, even if it leads to mistakes, the act of deciding empowers you. Mistakes can be corrected, but a life of indecision is a life of lost potential. So, if you want a life of results rather than regrets, you must decide today. Decide to stop avoiding the hard questions. Decide to take responsibility for your circumstances. Decide to commit to what matters most. The moment you make a deliberate decision, you step out of the shadows of hesitation and into the light of action. And when you look back years from now, you will realize that the decision you feared to make was the very decision that could have changed everything. Remember this, indecision is not harmless. It is a quiet thief of dreams. And every day you refuse to choose, the cost keeps rising. Make your decisions with courage, with clarity, and with commitment. Life will reward the person who decides, and it will bypass the person who waits. Because in the end, what you refuse to decide is still a decision, and often it is the one that costs the most. The next 10 years will pass regardless, whether you are prepared or not, whether you are intentional or distracted. Time will not wait. 10 years from now, the calendar will mark the same passage, but your life may look very different depending on the decisions you make today. Many people live as if the future is something that happens to them. But the truth is that your future is a reflection of your choices. Every day you have the opportunity to decide, and every decision, no matter how small, creates a ripple that grows over time. 10 years may seem distant, but in reality, it is shaped by thousands of daily decisions. How you use your hours, how you respond to challenges, how you invest in yourself. The next decade will either be the fruit of intentional decisions or the product of default habits. The person you become in 10 years is already being formed by the actions you take now. Too often, people delay decisions thinking they have plenty of time. But time is the one asset that cannot be replenished. When you postpone choosing who you will become, what values you will uphold, and which actions you will take, you are still making a choice, the choice to drift. And drifting is expensive. 10 years from now, those who procrastinated will wonder why their lives feel like they are on autopilot, while those who made deliberate, intentional decisions will see the compound effect of their discipline, focus, and courage. Decisions are the engines of progress. A decision is not just a moment, it is a statement of purpose. It declares that you are willing to act, that you are willing to be responsible for your life, and that you are willing to carry the weight of growth. Decisions define priorities. What you decide to focus on, what you decide to ignore, and what you decide to pursue will determine the quality of your experiences over the next decade. Successful people are not people who have more time or better luck. They are people who make better decisions consistently. They decide to wake up early, invest in their knowledge, surround themselves with excellence, and take ownership of their actions. They decide to end bad habits and start good ones. They decide to face fear rather than avoid it. And in 10 years, those decisions compound into results that are remarkable to behold. The power of decisions lies in their ability to create clarity. Once a decision is made, it eliminates indecision, reduces distraction, and gives direction. A clear decision is like a lighthouse in the storm. It guides you even when challenges arise. People who fail to make decisions allow circumstances to steer them, while those who decide take control of their direction. And remember, a single decision, when followed by consistent action, can alter the course of an entire decade. Choosing to learn a skill to improve health, to build relationships, or to start a business may seem small at first, but over 10 years, these decisions grow into outcomes far beyond imagination. Your decade will pass, whether you shape it or not. The question is, will you look back with pride or with regret? Every day, life offers you the opportunity to decide. And with each decision, you either build momentum or lose it. You cannot control all circumstances, but you can control your choices, and over time, choices determine everything. Start with clarity, commit with courage, and follow through with consistency. The next 10 years will pass regardless, but your decisions will determine whether they are years of growth, fulfillment, and accomplishment, or years of stagnation, missed opportunities, and regret. Your future is not in the hands of chance, it is in the hands of your decisions. Choose wisely, act intentionally, and your decade will be one you are proud to live. Before you chase achievements, before you chase titles, money, or recognition, there is one question you must answer first: who are you becoming? Most people focus on goals without ever asking themselves this essential question. They think that success is something external, something to be grabbed, but real success is internal. It begins with the person you choose to become. If you want to climb higher, you must first grow stronger. If you want to reach further, you must first expand your capacity. Your achievements will only ever be as large as the person you are when you pursue them. It's easy to set goals, but it's harder to set the standard for your own life. Decisions about who you will become require courage. They require honesty. They require the willingness to look in the mirror and say, this is who I will become no matter what it takes. Because the truth is, goals are temporary, but character is permanent. A promotion can be lost, money can come and go, recognition can fade, but the person you become is forever, and it determines how you respond to every opportunity, every challenge, every success, and every setback. Becoming the right person starts with discipline. Daily choices, seemingly small and insignificant, build the structure of your future. What you read, who you spend time with, how you manage your health, how you handle your finances, how you speak and think, all of these decisions shape the individual you are becoming. A decade from now, you won't remember the distractions you avoided, but you will live with the results of the habits you created. Excellence is not an event, it is a lifestyle. It is choosing today the person who will be ready for tomorrow. The problem is most people look at success and think it's about doing more. It's not. Success is about being more disciplined, more patient, more consistent, more focused, more courageous. If you develop these qualities in yourself first, the results will follow naturally. You don't chase success, you become the kind of person success is attracted to. And when you are that person, doors open in ways that effort alone could never force. Achievements become inevitable because you have become the vehicle through which success flows. Fear often prevents people from becoming the person they need to be. They hesitate, they procrastinate, they wait for circumstances to be perfect. But the truth is, the right person is not created by circumstance, it is forged by choice. Every decision you make to improve yourself, to act with integrity, to invest in your growth, no matter how small, is a brick in the foundation of the person you will become. There is no shortcut to becoming the right person. You cannot borrow it. You cannot buy it. You must earn it moment by moment, decision by decision. The sooner you decide who you will become, the sooner everything else in your life falls into place. The right person makes the right decisions. The right person attracts the right opportunities. The right person has the discipline to endure when things are hard and the wisdom to act when chances arise. So, before you chase achievements, promotions, wealth, or fame, commit to becoming the person who can handle them with grace, skill, and integrity. Remember, your life is a mirror reflecting the person you choose to become. Decide first, then act. Choose your character. Shape your habits. Build your skills. Strengthen your mind. Grow your heart. When you become the right person, your achievements will not only follow, they will be unstoppable, sustainable, and worthy of the person you have worked to become.